forum. This is forum number 3, and there's one other forum on Thursday night this week, so we hope to see you guys back then. The Richmond Chamber would like to welcome all of you to this event, and we want to thank all of our candidates for coming out and for enlightening us and helping us to understand you better and who you are and what you want us to know. And so our moderator tonight is Tom Martin, and he is with EKU, and we want to thank him for doing this for us tonight. And we want to thank our wonderful timer, Cecile Schubert, who is always here to keep us in line. And so I'll pass it on to Tom and let him give some instructions.
All right, good evening, and thank you for coming out this evening. We have 4 separate Meet the Candidate questions that we will be working from this evening. Each candidate will open up with a 1-minute opening statement. Mrs. Schubert will also be keeping track of our time, and she'll be giving the signals, the stop, and once she throws that up, then we will close the question or the statement. Each person will have a 90-second closing response, and in between we're going to do about 20 minutes of Q&A. Each question, the respondent will be given 1 minute, and the questions have been submitted from people like yourselves. I will sift through those questions and ask the candidates the questions. You are also encouraged during the debate to write down questions, and Mindy will collect those questions and then bring them up to the podium for them to be asked as well during this time. At this time, I'd like to invite the candidates for PVA to come forward. We will start with an opening statement, and Mr. Curry, you can go first.
All right. Well, thanks this evening, first of all, to the Chamber for hosting this event, and thanks to you guys for coming out tonight. Clearly, you've made a deliberate decision to be informed and be engaged in the community and know what's going on, and we greatly, all of us, greatly appreciate you being here. My name's Gary Curry, and I am seeking election as a Madison County Property Valuation Administrator. I'm a native of Madison County, family ties going back lots of generations, and spreading from Red Lick to Valley View, and just about everywhere in between. And so it's a privilege to seek public office in the county I grew up in. But I'm a graduate of Madison Central and of Eastern Kentucky. I'm a full-time realtor. My license is held with Rector Hayden Realtors out of Lexington, primarily because I love the integrity of the leadership there. My work has taken me into PVA offices around Central Kentucky, and it's my pursuit to lead the Madison County PVA office to be one of the finest, serving with commitment and integrity and transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Ackerman.
My name is Billy Ackerman, and I am the Madison County PVA, and I have had the privilege to serve you all since 2009. And I would also like to thank the Chamber for hosting the candidate events, and I think it's just completely coincidental that the PVAs are on the first night that property taxes are payable. I earned my finance and MBA degree from EKU. I am a certified and senior Kentucky assessor. And since taking office in 2009, we've really worked hard to modernize the office and focus on customer service. I'm fortunate to serve with a wonderful staff who works hard every day for the citizens of Madison County, and our office changes the one constant. We are constantly looking for new ways to provide better customer service and to be more efficient. I have the best job in local government because my responsibility to the community demands that I work with people one-on-one to address their issues. I care about every person in here. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Ackerman, you talked about new ways to for the PVA to work more better and more efficiently. What are some of those ways that that you've implemented during your term?
Sure. So we have a website that definitely helps with customer service. And when I first came into office, we had a lot of foot traffic, but now people can get to that information from their home, from their workplace. We have also continued to work with the county governments, with EKU, with Berea and Richmond to work with aerial imagery so that is available to us. We have recently moved our office, and one of the keys to that was we've had to scan documents, so we're more digital, we're quicker to pull up information right now, and we've actually improved our customer service because now the front counter is only about 4 steps from the front door.
Mr. Curry, describe the qualifications and experiences that make you the best candidate for this office.
Well, my work as a realtor over the last number of years has given me an opportunity to be engaged in property valuation work essentially every single day. It's part of the job is assessing the values of homes as whether you're working with listing a home or you're working with buyers to ensure the best value. But I've also had the opportunity of because of my work of being in PVA offices around Central Kentucky and have seen some of the best things to implement and some of the things I wouldn't want to implement as well in that process. So my experience has brought me to this place to be an effective communicator and to fairly and efficiently serve the people of Madison County.
Mr. Ackerman, same question to you. You're currently in the position, but what are the experiences and qualifications that make you the best candidate for this office?
Obviously I believe serving in the position qualifies me, but also my education, my background. My family's been involved in real estate and banking. But most of all, what truly qualifies me is that I'm here to listen to you. And that's when we really get down and figure out what needs to happen. Most people don't come to my office because they're happy. They come because they've got a problem, and I can't always solve it, but I'm always going to listen to them, and I'm going to work with them, and I'm going to do everything I can within my power to solve their issue.
Mr. Ackerman, what do you believe are the most significant issues and challenges facing this office over the next couple of years?
State budget. We are a state office and not a county office. So like the teachers, like the universities, we've been squeezed more and more. And, it's tough to keep staffed. We have 6 full-time people in the office, and that's all that the state will provide us. So we can hire part-time people, seasonal workers, but only if we have the budget to do so.
Mr. Curry, what do you believe are the most significant issues for the PVA moving forward?
Well, as I've seen, again, in working around all of Central Kentucky, the accessibility and the availability of the information is really critical. It's important that consumers, that realtors, that businesses be able to access the information easily, that the PVA officials, the administrator are accessible and can engage in the conversations necessary. I think that transparency is extremely important as well. I would love to see real estate sales reports made widely available of what's going on in the county so that it's easily seen. And even the expense reports from the PVA office itself to have a level of transparency to increase the sense of communication and commitment to the county.
Mr. Curry, are there best practices that you see taking place across the state or across the country that you would like to implement here?
Yeah, since the primary, I've been talking about the use of pictometry. I noticed the launch of the new website here for Madison County, and the announcement that that is coming. And we need to make sure that we are up to date with current and on top of new technologies that are coming out. They're going to make us more efficient because it's more than just, it's a much better use of taxpayer funds to be utilizing technology to assist in the assessment of property rather than sending two men in a truck out to work one street for half the day. And so I think the use of those technologies is very important, that we stay on top of those and we make sure those are fully implemented and fully used.
Mr. Ackerman, same question to you. Are there best practices that you see taking place across the state or across the country that you would like to implement here?
Sure. One of the things, Gary mentioned pictometry. The next flyover is due in early 2019 or even late this year. One of the things that we have contracted for is Change Finder, and that is a part of pictometry where it actually looks at property, it looks at the outline of property for previous years, and then it compares it to what it now sees. And that helps us identify properties that we may have missed or something that has been changed. I still think that there will always be a need to send people out in the field, of course, for new construction. But getting out in the field and taking that picture on an up-to-date basis kind of gives you a good idea of what the quality of that property is.
Mr. Ackerman, you mentioned having six full-time employees in your office plus part-time employees. Are public employees in Madison County well-trained to handle the increasingly diverse population with respect to language and cultural differences? If so, explain how, and if not, what would the city or county do to improve this capacity for its employees?
That's a good question. You know what, for the most part, we muddle through, and we can write things down, draw pictures, and as far as having a translator on staff, we don't have anything like that. But generally, we can find somebody who can help us, you know, get the answers that they need, or find them get them to the right person.
Mr. Curry, public employees well trained to handle increasingly diverse population. How would you handle that?
Well, obviously that is an ever increasing issue for us on every level, but especially as it relates to real estate with fair housing laws, we must make sure that we have a means in place to accommodate the needs of anyone that comes in our office, and to have ongoing training and reminders about those issues, and about not stereotyping folks because of their background. And it's just one of those pieces that we just have to be diligent about constantly in real estate.
Mr. Curry, you mentioned a minute ago about transparency. Do you feel that the local government is as inclusive as it could be in terms of public participation and decision making? If yes, explain how. If not, how would you change it?
Well, it's difficult to be for the public to be fully engaged and fully participating if they're not fully informed. And so again, I think the key to community engagement is communication, is making the information available, not just the data, but making the processes available, making the information about how we go about arriving at the decisions we do, making those processes available as well, and just being an open door. I mean, we're a public service. We're in a public service, so we must just be keeping the doors and the windows wide open to our policies and procedures, to the data that we come up with, and to the way we spend taxpayer dollars.
Same question to you, Mr. Ackerman. Is the local government as inclusive as it could be in terms of public participation in decision making? If so, explain how. If not, how would you change it?
I think we are. There's always room for improvement, but you know, my cell phone number, my email are on the website. If you want to talk to me, you certainly have the ability to get to me, but we want to reach out to you any chance we get. Talking about moving data to information, one of the things that we do when we're reassessing property is we look at the sales comparables, and we try and put that in a format that's easy to look at, easy to compare for somebody who's not comfortable with real estate. We're always looking for better ways to serve the public. We hope people come into the office and you can always get to somebody.
Do you think that Mr. Curry, do you believe, or do you think the county's comprehensive strategic plan adequately addresses long-term planning issues? Why or why not?
I don't have an answer for that. I would have to more fully understand and know the details of that comprehensive plan to be able to completely answer that question. One thing I learned a long time ago is that there's no point in trying to bluff your way through something. If I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer. But I can find out someone who does, and I can take the time to research and invest the energy necessary to come up with an answer. And for this question, I don't have a response.
Okay, same question to you, Mr. Ackerman. Do you think that the county's comprehensive plan adequately addresses long-term planning issues? Why or why not?
I'm in the same boat as Gary with this one.
All right.
This is not actually an area that the PVA office deals with. We look at it after the fact. Once the comprehensive plan has started evolving and actually put into place, then we're looking at how it affects the values of the property.
There are increasing state and federal issues that affect local governments. Mr. Ackerman, give examples of how you will keep current with these ever-increasing and ever-changing issues.
As a state office, we do have oversight by the state government. So they come in several times a year and make sure that we're following all the processes and procedures that we have to. They review us on an annual basis to make sure that we are keeping up with assessments and that we're not falling behind. We're also subject to being audited by the state auditor. So as far as the federal goes, we rely somewhat on the Department of Revenue to help us interpret some of those guidelines.
Mr. Curry, how would you keep current with the ever-changing issues that are coming from state and federal governments?
Well, that's part of simply respecting the office and the purpose for our existence in the first place. I'm currently in real estate, working as a realtor, so I may not have the practical experience with that yet, but I've got enough wisdom to know that it's my duty and responsibility as administrator to be aware, to be informed, to make sure my staff is informed, and make sure we are fully compliant on every level at every point, because that's just what you do. That's just the respect for the office and the position that you have.
Is there any major differences between the two of you on any issues, or that we've not highlighted today that you would like to express here? Start with you, Mr. Curry.
Is this closing statement?
No.
No.
Would you like to keep it for closing statement?
I don't know that I necessarily have a response.
Okay, Mr. Ackerman.
I think the value or the goal of the Property Valuation Office is pretty straightforward. It is our job to assess property for the purpose of taxation. How we go about that is going to change, and there may be some differences, but overall, our mission is going to stay pretty consistent.
Last question. Why do my property taxes keep going up?
Could be one of two reasons. The first one is the PVA reassesses your property. When the PVA reassesses your property, we always send out a notice, let you know, and give you the opportunity to come in and talk to us. Because if we've overassessed you, we want you to come in and share that with us. If we're a little bit too low, you're probably going to stay home. The second way that your taxes go up are because one of the taxing districts increased the rates. At that point, the PVA is out of it, and we can lay the blame squarely on their shoulders.
Tangential question, my appraisal is different than the PVA. Shouldn't they be the same?
Your appraisal is different.
My personal appraisal is different than the PVA.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There are different methods at different approaches to assessing property values, and we have to look at what comparable properties are doing. We have to look at what the neighborhood's doing, because one affects the other. Nobody wants to pay taxes. But the important thing is that we are assessed fairly, and that we're sharing the burden together. And so, at that, it's just important that we are looking at what the property values in a particular area are doing, and they may not line up exactly with what any one appraiser has said.
Let's go with closing statements. Mr. Curry, you have 90 seconds.
Look, I'm new to politics, and quite frankly, this is never a place I thought I'd find myself in. So in this moment, I can be honest and real with you and tell you that I appreciate your consideration next month. The character that has been modeled in me and instilled in me by public school teachers, pastors, Sunday school teachers, and a lot of other great men and women in this community continue to be the framework for my life. There's a lot I don't know yet about the Office of Property Valuation Administrator, because I've never yet served in that capacity. So there's a lot to learn about how that process works. But what I can tell you is that same shaping of my life is going to also affect my leadership as the Property Valuation Administrator. And so I will lead from a standpoint of commitment to the people of Madison County through the important work of the PVA office. And, like I said earlier, there are a lot of answers I don't know. There are a lot of questions. I don't even know the questions yet. But I'm committed to the people of Madison County to serve them well, to serve them fairly. I'm committed to lead with integrity, again, respecting the office and the purpose for its existence in the first place, and giving due diligence to ensure that the tax burden is fairly shared, and I'll lead with transparency. And so, again, thanks for coming to this event and making this a priority to your evening.
Mr. Ackerman, 90 seconds.
I love the opportunity to serve Madison County as PVA. It's a thrill every day, and it gives me the opportunity to connect with people, to listen to them, and to help them whenever possible. It's hard to get excited about what PVA does unless you're on the wrong side of that. But I hope that you will continue to support me. I would appreciate your vote for re-election on November 6th, and that's all I got tonight.
Let's thank Mr. Ackerman and Mr. Curry for being here today. If you would, give us 2 minutes and we'll set up for the next round.
Good job, Gary. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you all for being out tonight, and hopefully there's several following online. My name's Robert Jennings. I'm running for Madison County Attorney. About a year ago, we sat down as a family to make this decision on whether or not to run this campaign, and we talked about reasons for running, and ultimately we kept coming back to my desire to serve this community. I come from a family of service. My wife, Samantha, is here tonight. She's a public school teacher. My dad, Bill, served this county for 30 years. And service means a commitment to this community over the individual. And I take that commitment seriously. Madison County has been my home my entire life. It's been my family's home. for the last 200 years. And I'm certain that Samantha and I are going to raise our family here like a lot of you all have. I'm asking for the opportunity to ensure that this county succeeds, that it continues to be safe for not only us now, but for our future generations. Thank you.
Ms. Heyman.
I'm Jenny Heyman, and I'm running for county attorney here in Madison County. I graduated from Eastern Kentucky University in 2002 with a degree in criminal justice and attended the University of Louisville Brandeis School of Law and graduated in 2005, so don't hold that against me. That it's not a cat's. So I've actually had a civil practice for 13 years since I've graduated, and then in the last 11 years I've been prosecuting, and that's where my heart is. I love prosecuting. To me, that was a decision that I made back in the 6th grade, and that's what I continue to do. In the 20 years that Madison County has been my residence, I have tried to stay involved in numerous boards, clubs, and groups to help better Madison County, and to me that's exactly what I'm trying to do now. Take the knowledge and experience that I have in being in the county attorney's office and give that back to the people of Madison County. The county attorney's office isn't about politics to me, it's about public service, and that's my life goal. That's all I've ever intended to do, and I just ask for the opportunity to continue to do so for you all.
Ms. Heyman, describe the qualifications and experiences that make you the best candidate for this office.
Well, as I said, I've been prosecuting for the past 11 years of my career. I prosecute everything from traffic tickets, misdemeanors, DUIs, juvenile court, child support, family court, and even felonies. I've had the benefit of having the experience in my current position to have to learn how to do it all. In addition to a lot of people don't realize that the county attorney's office is also a state and a county office. We have the fiscal court side of it, delinquent taxes, representing the county in civil matters, representing fiscal court in that matter. And I've had that experience and get to bring that to Madison County. I have relationships already with the different agencies, law enforcement, the judges, and I think that makes me uniquely qualified. I've got the trial experience to back it all up.
Mr. Jennings, describe the qualifications and experiences that make you the best candidate for this office.
Well, just from an educational background, I'm a graduate of Madison Central. I'm a graduate of UK and UK College of Law. I graduated there with honors. My practice has been here in Madison County and has been almost exclusively that on the Madison County Attorney's docket. I've worked with all the attorneys here. I've worked with all the judges here. I have seen almost daily what these cases are, how they take place. I've worked them. From just a background standpoint, this isn't a position that I've taken on a whim. Grown up in the legal community at the courthouse, my first job in high school was at a law office. This has been something that I've wanted to do from the beginning. I've continued to do that in my practice here and am ready to step up and take on the role as county attorney.
Mr. Jennings, what do you believe are the most significant issues in this race?
In this race, well, in this race, it's definitely drugs. It's not a secret. There's not one part of this county that's not affected by it. I see it every single day on my street. People ask, what can we do about it? And it's a complex issue, and really, we've got to support our law enforcement in jailing these drug dealers, people pushing it on us. We also have to support our citizens, our neighbors, who are addicted to it. If you're an addict and you go in and we don't do anything for them when they get out, they're going to be an addict when they get out. What the county attorney's office is responsible for is utilizing what's called Casey's Law, and that gives folks an opportunity to commit a loved one who's an addict to rehab before they get charged with a crime. It's underutilized. People don't know about it. I think the office needs to take an active role in educating people, finding funding to get these folks to rehab, and hopefully correct these issues before they get charged with the crime.
So drugs is a problem. Ms. Heyman, what do you believe are the most significant issues?
You know, I agree with Mr. Jennings. I don't think anybody that would be in this position would say that drugs isn't one of our primary issues. We're facing a huge drug epidemic that's affecting nearly everybody in one way or the other. And I think there's different aspects that we do have to get involved in. Obviously, rehabilitation for those who want it and not only need it is important. But also, I think we have to start thinking outside the box and start addressing these issues differently than we have in the past. And for me, a lot of that's working with the education system, with parents reaching our children at a much younger age than when we were exposed to these issues. Unfortunately, we have children in single-digit ages who know what it looks like when mommy and daddy put needles in their arms. And if you don't get to them sooner, that's just a lifestyle that they're exposed to, and we really have to reach out to them and explain to them that there's a different lifestyle, that there are people out here who try to help those and try to prevent that from happening. And so for me, reaching the children is a big issue.
Let's stay on this topic for a couple of questions. Mr. Jennings, you mentioned Casey's Law, but you said it was inadequate, is that?
Well, I said it's underutilized.
Underutilized, okay. So you believe that tool or that law is underutilized. How would you promote it as county attorney?
The reason that it's underutilized is like a lot of these issues, it's money. We're given a tool, but we're not given a funded mandate for it. Other counties have been successful in securing grants to help offset the cost of rehab. And that could be from state grants, including in private grants. I would want someone in our office to look into those options. Currently, there's a home incarceration program that they're allowing indigent people to serve on it without any cost to them. If the office is able to generate that kind of revenue, I think that at least the county attorney's office could share a portion of that cost and make it more of an effective way, make this tool more effective to use. I mean, if we can't do it the whole way, at least we could at least bear some part of our burden to make sure that people get out and actually start using this tool.
Ms. Heyman, same question to you. Casey's Law, is this tool, do you agree with Mr. Jennings that it's underutilized, and how would you promote it?
So in the office I currently work in, we're actually very active in Casey's Law. We've actually gotten to the point that we have someone who comes in and actually just works with our families, because not only is it a money issue, but it's a lack of information. There's a lot of families out there who want to help their children, their parents, their siblings, anybody, but they don't actually have any idea what Casey's Law is. So we actually have someone who comes in and walks them through this process, because I tell most people, no one wants to be in the courtroom but me. Like, that's where I want to be and that's what I enjoy, but everybody off the street doesn't want to do that. And so I think, you know, that's one of the things that would be helpful to also bring to Madison County, is to have those people that walk them through it. We have great victims advocates, but they're already overwhelmed. To have that person specifically set aside for Casey's Law, I think would be a huge step for Madison County.
What role, Mr. Jennings, can the county attorney's office play in ensuring addicts receive the help that they need instead of a jail sentence that does nothing to address the underlying addiction? They
can play an incredibly large role. The Madison District Court, most of the crimes that come through there are based upon some sort of addiction. There is a misdemeanor drug court program. It's struggling right now. And the reason that it's struggling is that there are better options or easier options than actually going through and being judicially monitored, passing your drug tests. It's difficult for them. And I guess my solution to that would be, on some of these felony cases, give them an option. You either serve a year in jail or you go to rehab. And that rehab is monitored. You're not sitting at home. You're taking drug tests, you're checking those boxes, and then at the end of the day, if you're successful in that attempt, then you're no longer saddled with that crime. I think that's the main thing that this office can do, is serve justice in that format.
Ms. Heyman, what role does the county attorney's office have in ensuring the addicts receive the help they need instead of a jail sentence that does nothing to address the underlying addiction?
Well, and I agree with Mr. Jennings that the county attorney's office plays a huge role. The county attorney's office is one of the primary offices in the criminal justice system that people are in and out of, so that's their first experience. The reality is that some people need to be incentivized about getting some help. Any of us, if given the option, choosing between rehab and jail, are going to choose rehab. And nobody's going to want to say, just send me to jail. And that's something I've experienced for years. And so it's statistically proven that short-term rehab is not going to be effective. There are options. handled primarily in circuit court through the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, that if sentenced to jail time, they have to go through what we call a SAP program, which is rehabilitation forced while in jail. They don't have the option to leave. So I think one thing is we have to start working with other community members, those who are funded through grants that can provide assistance, so we can get these people into some long-term rehab rather than a revolving door in and out when they choose to leave, and then we have them back in jail again.
Mr. Jennings, what is your approach toward negotiating plea bargains versus trial litigations?
Well, the reality of our justice system is 99% of these cases are going to result on some kind of plea. The key, I think, is making sure that you're still administering justice when you're accepting those pleas. You don't want to paint everyone with a blank slate. Everyone comes in front of you, has a different background, has a different story, has different circumstances. And what we'll try to do and strive to do is make sure that justice is served. What's good for one person might not be the other. So it's an effectively looking at each case and making sure that you're reaching an equitable result for that individual, as opposed to whatever the crime is, that's what the sentence is. It's actually looking at each case.
Ms. Heyman, your approach to negotiating plea bargains versus trial litigation?
Well, the county attorney's position is very discretionary in how we handle the criminal prosecutions, and I think it should be. That when you see a case, you not only make an assessment about the strength of the facts in the case, which is why I think it's important that we should be readily available to assist law enforcement so we can get them to the point that it's a solid case. But we also have to look at not only the aspect of the defendant's maybe criminal record, and if they're currently on probation or what they may have had previously, if they've had multiple priors, but also what damage it did to the victim. There are different types of cases that we need to assess the victim's rights in these, and that it does have to be handled on a discretionary basis. The legislature has a habit of wanting to restrict that discretion and give us these guidelines that we have to fall within, and they're not in the courtroom to understand that there's a reason. I've tried many cases. The reality is sometimes they don't like the offers I make, and that's perfectly fine. I have no problem trying the case and letting the citizens within our community decide what that sentence should be. Thank you.
Ms. Heyman, please talk a little bit about the office's responsibility with regards to child support and ensuring that primary parents receive money that they are owed.
Well, that's primarily, obviously, the county attorney's position within child support court, and child support's very difficult in that you sit somebody in jail for 6 months for not paying child support. They're clearly not paying it in jail. But I think there are different means to go about trying to collect, to be more assertive, and to try to establish the paternities, to try to go ahead and establish the wage garnishments and work with them, incentivize them to try to find jobs rather than just think we don't have to provide for our children. Our future is very important, and unfortunately it takes money to raise kids. Everybody knows this. So we do have to try to get some of these parents to understand that they've made these choices and they have these obligations, and we'll work with you, but you have to be incentivized to do so.
Same question to you, Mr. Jennings, responsibilities of the Office for Child Support.
Madison County does a fantastic job of collecting child support in this state. That's the reality. I've been on those dockets. I've seen them do it firsthand, and we do a really ranking one of the top counties in the state as far as our collection. What I've spoken with the folks that are currently administrating that. I've secured their commitment to continuing that job should I be elected. It really is one of the parts of this job that affects a lot of people in our community. There's been some talks about Madison County possibly collecting other counties' child support. I'm not for that. This job is meant for only the folks here. So I want to make sure that focus remains on serving the people of this county.
Final question before we get to closing statements. Mr. Jennings, the county attorney's office has a large number of employees. How would you describe your management style and the environment that you could create for the people that work in your office?
I think that I'm approachable. A lot of people, I believe, would tell you that, and I'm not afraid to delegate. I mean, that's what we've been doing in this campaign. You delegate and you put your trust in people, and you hold them accountable if they're not. I like to get up in front of problems. before they become a big issue. And I think that a lot of the folks in that office will be happy to work for me and work with me.
Ms. Heyman, your management style and the environment that you create in the workplace.
So I've had the benefit in the civil office that I'm currently in to handle the management. And that's a big part of the county attorney's job, and it's a very different aspect than just prosecuting. A lot of different personalities, and it can be difficult sometimes. Not everybody's going to get along, not everybody's going to agree. But luckily I've had the benefit of handling, not only working with the people, but also dealing with processing payroll, and so knowing what all that entails. And for me, it's communication. It's important. Understanding that certain people strive in certain areas, and it's better for them to be in those positions, and making sure everybody's working with their strong points, but knowing that I have their back. You know, the reality is in the county attorney's office, the responsibility will ultimately fall on me if elected to that position, and I want the staff and the attorneys to know that they can rely on me to not only, you know, guide them in what I feel is the best way, but also support them in any decisions in which they make.
We'll run in with closing statements. Ms. Heyman, you can go first.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank first the Chamber and EKU for allowing us to be here and putting this on, and for everybody for coming out. I know, you know, we have a lot of different offices going today, and everybody's supporting people, so it really means a lot that people want to be informed. As I said in the opening, you know, this isn't something where I need a learning curve. I have the experience. I've had the trial experience, the prosecutorial experience, the management experience. This isn't where I have to go in and develop new relationships. I've had these relationships from the years I've been working here in Madison County, and I just want to develop this so that everybody works to create a better criminal justice system for all of the citizens in our community. It's not about politics, it's not about party, it's about being a public servant and doing what's best. And I've dedicated my whole life to try to serve people in different aspects, not just our adults, but also our kids, our senior citizens, and protecting those that need protected. And I think that's very important in this position, and I just ask you for your consideration on November 6th.
Mr. Jennings.
Yes, thank you all for your attention tonight. I want to close by just telling everyone that Madison County is fortunate to have a history of strong leadership in this county attorney position. A lot of our former county's attorneys have been fairly young when they got their start. And I think that that's because they were successful because they didn't forget about the people that put them in that office. Didn't forget about who put them there, continue to rely on them, and that's what I promise to do for you all. Once we get in, that's not the end, that's only the beginning. So it's going to be continuing to listen to you guys, continuing to rely upon you for your opinions, and continue to be accountable to you. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to have to live with the decisions I make in this community, and I'm ready for that. I would ask for all your support on November the 6th, and again, thank you for your time.
Let's thank Jenny Heyman and Robert Jennings for their time today. Give us 2 minutes, and we will start with opening statements. Mr. Tussey.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. So give everybody a minute to settle down. Mr. Tussey.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight, listen to us, and get an idea of who your candidates are and what they can do for you. My name's Steve Tussey. I was born and raised in Madison County. I left here in the late 70s, early 80s, and pursued a career with the Department of Justice Federal Prison System. I worked in and managed jails and prisons all over the U.S. for almost 30 years. I retired in 05, and in 06, I came running back to Madison County. I love it here. My family's here. My friends are here. I would love to take my experience, my training, the lifetime of colleagues and friends, and put that package to work for us right here in our county jail. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Doug Thomas. I am the Madison County Jailer. I took office back in 2011. Actually started in 1986 under administration of Nolan Winkler. Ronnie DeVere took office in 1990. I worked for him up through the years. 2010, ran for office, got elected, took office in 2011 till present. We've got a lot of people in jail. Our population is growing more and more every day. It's just a busy place with all the drugs that we're dealing with. and the crime that we have here in our county here. Again, I thank you all for being here, the chamber. Thank you all.
Mr. Thomas, aside from building a new jail, how would you address the overcrowding issue?
Besides not building one?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's a great question. We're dealing with it right now today. We have around 385 people in there today. We've had a number of up to 400 before. You know, you try to hire the right people and to the right officers. And for me, I have to lead by example. So I go to work every day, but with the training and again, the right officers, the people that we employ there to make sure we do the job. It's a tough business. Billy Ackerman said he had the best job. No, I think I do. But it's tough. You got to love this, and I do. Been doing it for many years here in Madison County. But it's just patience, training that we've had to keep the lid on it, so to speak. This amount of people. We're a 184 bed facility, and we got 385 people in here today. So again, it's a lot of patience and me showing up for work, making sure it happens.
Mr. Tussey, aside from building a new jail, how would you address the overcrowding?
Through some aggressive home incarceration program. There is one now that's administered by the county attorney's office. That is a fairly recent addition. Not sure how many inmates are in that program now, but that certainly could be more progressive and more inmates in that program. Job placement, we need to slow down the recidivism rate. The rate right now is somewhere around 80%, which simply means 8 out of every 10 inmates that walks out that door have either already been there or they're coming back. That's a terrible waste of the resources that we have for the county. Also, I think we could use some temporary housing. There's some units actually available out at the Army Depot. We just put one in out at the airport to use as classrooms. I think there's some way that we could incorporate that into the local landscape and actually reduce some of the numbers or expand the numbers into our temporary facilities.
So overcrowding is an issue for the jails. What are and that's obviously because people are doing things illegally. What are some of those things that are big issues for the jail in terms of moving forward, challenges?
The number one challenge, obviously, is the overcrowding. The jail's almost 30 years old, and we need to think about that. And the county, we just simply have not kept up. The jail is simply a part of the county's infrastructure. It's no different than a road or a bridge or some of the infrastructure things that we must have to operate a county. It's almost 30 years old. It's a 184 bed facility with, routinely over 400 inmates in it. Sure, we need a new jail, and I don't think anybody denies that. The biggest issue in a new jail is the funding. Where do we find it? How do we get it? And there's options for that. There's some grant money available from the State Department of Corrections and from the feds. And yes, I'm getting the high sign. But thank you very much.
Mr. Thomas, besides overcrowding, what are the other issues that face the jail?
The other issues that face the jail, again, it's the almost 30-year-old building. I go in there every day, work every day. We have a lot of issues, and when I talk about issues, I'm talking about the maintaining of the jail, the maintenance of the jail, from our plumbing issues that it's going to cost a lot of money to fix. And I'm just trying to fix as I go when something turns up. But the building is very old. It's operated 24/7, never shuts down. So we have a lot of problems with maintenance, with our maintenance issues inside our jail. There is and another problem is again our inmates. The more that we have, it causes more issues, more problems inside our facilities. But we have our wants and our needs. And I don't want a bigger jail or a new jail, but we need here in Madison County, without a doubt, pardon me, it's a need.
Recidivism was mentioned. What is your position, Mr. Thomas, on the proposed healing center?
I'm about helping people also, but I'm not about a healing center and the taxpayers of this county to have to pay for that. I'm about helping you. Believe me, I want to help you. But we have so many, recidivism rate, you know, and I see this every day. It's very high. But you got to have that want to. You got to want the help also. You know, I can help you every day. If you don't want it, it's not going to work. So you got to have that want to for that. So if we decide when we build new jail or build on, we have to put in our jail the space available to rehab out of our facility too. But again, the healing center, I'm about helping you also, but you got to want to help. But to build a healing center and the taxpayers of this county to help you pay for it, to make you pay for it, no, sir.
Mr. Tussey, the healing center?
I agree with Doug, actually. I don't advocate a healing center standalone facility. I would rather see a brand-new jail facility with programming space inside of it. That programming space would essentially serve the same purpose as a healing center, a faith-based healing center, and that certainly could be within the confines of a new jail. If we do it inside the new jail, and then that opens the door for a lot of things. One thing it opens the door for is a state paid-for substance abuse program. If we do that inside and we have what they call therapeutic conditions, where we can separate the inmates and have them in a standalone substance abuse program, and the state will actually pay for their Class D inmates that we routinely house. And if we build a new facility, we could house more of those inmates and then subsidize the jail budget.
Mr. Tussey, with overcrowding comes issues particularly with safety of inmates and illness and health. How would you address these issues of safety and illness given the overcrowding?
We currently have a contract with, I think it's Southern Health is the company that serves and furnishes health care for the facility. Understand that they do an okay job. I'm not involved like Doug is to tell you what they do on a daily basis, but they run about a 12-hour shift 7 days a week. That program, and there's probably others that would be just as effective, or if not maybe more effective, in monitoring the health care of the inmates. The one thing that's really, the staff of the jail see these inmates every day, and they see them every hour. Staff training would be paramount, especially in recognizing suicide deficiencies and those problems.
Mr. Thomas, safety and illness issues, how are those addressed? And is there room for improvement or new ideas for that? Well,
There is room for improvement and new ideas if our facility is bigger. Let me say that. But we do have Southern Health Partners as a medical group that's in our jail today. They're 7 days a week and they work 12 hours a day for a cost of close to $300,000 a year is what we pay these people. We have to have them in our facility because the amount of people that are coming in on meth, on heroin, with drugs inside their body cavities, we have to have these medical people on our floors. And we never close. We're 24/7. So we had to administer Narcan inside our facility because they brought it in their body cavities. The nurses had to be there. Again, this safety, and again, for me, it's patience, it's training, it's being there, my responsibility, the officers being there, taking care of business.
Mr. Thomas, at some point, the people who are incarcerated are released. What programs are in place now or that you would like to see in place to assist in the reintegration of that population?
Well, you know, I have several programs inside our facility. And again, I do the best I can with what I have to work with right now. So we have several, and Steve mentioned a while ago, it's faith-based people that I have coming in our facility with our programs, our GED programs, our AA, NA, substance abuse programs, but they're all faith-based with some preachers out of the Church on the Rock, Kenny Davis, people like that come in our facility every day and help this community and help me inside our facility. But sure, there's a lot more that I'd like to do, but with the space that we have, again, this jail was built in 1990. for 130 people. 7 or 8 years later, we built more onto it, 184. Today we've had over 400 people in there. So we are managing very, very well. But again, there's a lot more that I'd like to do, but we're not able because we have one room to do all this in, and I make this happen, what we're doing now.
Mr. Tussey, GED programs, AA programs, what other programs would you envision to help assist people who are coming out of being released from jail?
I'd like to see more job training and actually an alliance with the local employers. The employers actually in this county are struggling to fill their positions simply because they can't get enough people to pass a drug test that they can fill their vacancies. I would like to help fill that void with trained inmates that are coming out that are specifically trained to fill those positions, and do with that a communication with those employers. We'd do the training inside the jail, and as soon as they're released, they're ready to go fill those positions, help the employers and help the county, and reintegration with their families, and between a good job and the family, hopefully they'll not come back to jail.
Are there best practices, Mr. Tussey, that you see taking place across the state or across the country that you would implement?
Again, this limited space at the current jail really doesn't allow much. You need programming space. I would love to see programs in the jail because I've been in so many jails and I've seen the things that actually work. There's so many things that could be done within the confines of the jail. I've seen the dog training programs where they train the service dogs, eyeglass recycling, audio book. They take the books and they actually translate them to audio and put them out to the visually impaired folks and into the schools, and then even translating into different languages. So yes, there's a lot of programs that could be done at the jail. The real problem right now is space.
Mr. Thomas, best practices that you'd see taking across the state or maybe across the country that you would like to implement?
Well, sure, we got a lot that we'd like to implement. Like Steve said, we don't have the space available, and I have work programs now. If you all seen some inmates out here cleaning up the roads, picking up trash on the roads, helping the school system out, and we just left Madison Central before they opened up the school to help paint it, with the inmates. So I'm doing, again, what I have to work with. So we've got a lot going on, and there's a lot more programs that we know we can do. But again, we have this, believe me when I tell you this, we have one room to do all this in, one room. So again, our wants and our needs, we need a bigger jail, period. We're not going to heal everybody in this county. And there are people that have to go to jail. Without a doubt, they need to be in jail. It's our job to protect our community. I wish we didn't. I wish everybody behaved themselves. We all go work somewhere else, but it ain't going to happen. So sure, it's an expense of how to pay for that, and I got a stop sign.
Mr. Thomas, this will be the last question for both of you before closing statements. Space is an issue. Clearly, you all have mentioned it several times, so I'm going to absolve you of that problem. Space has now been solved, and I've increased your budget by 20%. What one program will you implement that will be the part of your vision for the jail that you will say, now that I've got the space, now that I've got the budget, I'm going to put a lot of effort, resources, and people behind this program. What would that program be?
Well, again, the SAP program, substance abuse program, inside our facility, you have to complete that program. There's more programs that we can add, but for me, it would be the substance abuse program, SAP program, to inside our facility to work your way out during that program. Again, we talked about we got the space now, but these kind of people that you have in the SAP program, you have to separate them from the general population. You can't put them in the SAP program and put them right back into the same cell they came out of. So you have to separate these people to make this work. And some of it isn't going to work, but we have to try. We have to help these people. But again, you have to remember that they got to want to help themselves too to make this work. I can help you all day long, sir. If you don't want to help, it ain't going to happen.
Mr. Tussey, space problem solved, 20% increase in budget. What program do you implement?
I agree with Doug completely. The SAP program, the drug epidemic obviously is affecting everybody in the county, and especially the jail. Yes, we need to lock them up. Yes, we want them off the street. But yes, we have to face reality that to do that is going to cost a lot of money, and we have to provide a space for it. You say we've got a new jail and we just increased our budget by 20%. Certainly, we have to attack the drug problem, and we do that through our substance abuse program.
Let's end with closing statements. Mr. Tussey, you have 90 seconds.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. I really would enjoy the opportunity to put my long career in corrections. I've had thousands of hours of training with the federal government, and I've had a lifetime of contacts and colleagues that are presently in the business and would help us and help me be successful in not only operating a jail, but planning a new jail. No question we need a new jail. The biggest question we have is how do we pay for it? One idea I have on how to pay for it, and not just pay for the physical facility itself, but even our operating budget. I truly believe it's time that our local city stepped up to the table, and that being the city of Richmond and city of Berea. They reap the benefits of our county jail, and yes, there are statutes in place that say that the county will supply a county jail and pay for it. There's also statutes that give us limitations or give us the opportunity to reap some of that money back from the cities. I think we need to pursue that. I appreciate everybody being here. I would appreciate your support and your vote on November the 6th. And if you elect me, I would love to serve the county.
Mr. Thomas.
What was your question again?
Closing statement.
Oh. Well, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you very much. This is kind of tough up here, sitting in front of everybody. But again, we thank you all very much.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. Again, I got elected in 2010. I started in 1986 here in Madison County. My family's from Madison County. My dad was in the military, some out of Alabama, some Kentucky, some Indiana, but my brother Bruce with the Sheriff's Department, my nephew Derek with the Sheriff's Department here in Madison County. So we've kind of been in law enforcement and for a long time here in Madison County. Again, I started in 1986 under Nolan Winkler administration. 1990, went to work for Ronnie DeVere under his administration. Learned a lot from both these guys, and this is was a goal of mine, is to be an elected official someday as jailer of Madison County, because this is what I love to do. And you know, I'm not bragging about this, but I think I'm pretty good at it. We kept the lid on this jail with over 400 people in there at times, and it takes a lot of patience, a lot of training, a lot. You got to be dedicated to this. I go to work every day, you know, because I care about what goes on, and I care about my employees. I care about the inmates that are in there. Yeah, we do have a drug problem without a doubt, but these people got to go to jail too that don't want to abide by the laws also. Like our county attorneys will tell you, they've got to go to jail. It's my job to take care of them while they're there, and that's what I intend to do. I ask you for your vote and your support, and thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, and let's thank Mr. Thomas and Mr. Tussey for coming tonight.
Thank you.
It's for Sheriff. We will start with opening statements. Mr. Johnson, 1 minute for opening statements.
Yes, sir. Thank everyone for coming out tonight. My name's Rick Johnson. I'm the Republican nominee for Madison County Sheriff. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised here in Madison County. Lived in Madison County all my life, either in Richmond or Berea, Kentucky. I love the people in Madison County, and there's nowhere else I would rather live than Madison County, Kentucky. Brief information about my career. I started out in public service with the Rescue Squad, which is a volunteer organization. I went to the ambulance service as an EMT. I left there and started my career as a police officer in 1992. During 1992 to 94, I worked patrol. Then I worked street level narcotics. And 96, I went to the drug task force in DEA in Lexington, which is a great opportunity. I had the pleasure of working with some great guys over there, not just locally. We worked pretty much all over the United States and some in Mexico. I got the stop sign, so.
We'll be sure to get to some other issues as well. Mr. Coyle.
Well, hello, and thank everybody for coming out. My name is Mike Coyle, and I'm originally from Madison County, born and raised here. I'm very honored to be and serve as the sheriff of Madison County. There's many reasons why I made a decision to run again, many different reasons. I'm a lifelong resident of Madison County, married to my wife, Linda, for 46 years, who's a retired postmaster at the Waco School. I also served many years on the school board. We have 3 kids, a son, twin daughters, and 4 grandchildren. I graduated from school here in Madison County, got a degree, 4-year degree from EKU with police administration. I'm a graduate of KLEC, Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, and Kentucky State Police Academy. I too have received thousands of hours of training in service as well as specialized law enforcement training, and I think this makes me qualified for this position. Thank you.
Thank you both. We have talked a lot about the drug crisis in this county, and of course it's a big problem across the country. Is this the single biggest criminal threat, or is there something else we should be aware of? I have a stack of questions about juveniles and gangs in Madison County. Are those separate, related? How would you rate those two? I'll start with you, Mr. Coyle.
Well, I've been in this business for 40 years, and today in our society, it's completely different. It was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm going to say 75 to 80% of the crime that's committed here in Madison County is somewhat, somehow, some way drug related. We have 5 deputies, 5 detectives that we use every day working the streets. We have 1 works for the DEA task force, 2 on the HIDTA task force, and 2 on the street level. Drugs is a problem. It's going to be a problem until the government makes a decision to start doing something with drug traffickers. Put them under the jail. Don't put them on home incarceration and let them back out. Do something with them. If a person has a drug issue, a drug problem, or is a drug addict, we need to help those people. But if you commit a crime, you're going to have to be responsible for that crime, whether it's drug related or not.
Mr. Johnson.
It's no doubt right now, gang activity is an important issue. We're not really seeing it here in Madison County. From everyone I talk to, it's the drug overdose deaths that we have. And the first 6 months of this year, we've had 23. That runs through the last day of May. Last year, it was 40. So if we keep on the same trend that we're going on right now, we're going to have at least 6 more deaths than what we had last year. And I started off my first speech by, there's probably not a person in this room that's not been affected by opioid abuse, either family, friend, or someone they know. And to me, I think that's the #1 thing that we have to address.
We've heard from the county attorney, we've heard from the candidates for jailer. What are areas of partnerships and collaboration between the sheriff's office, jail, county attorney, the city that we're currently not using, but that you would like to pursue if you were elected?
Well, one thing, I came, like I said, from part of my background was with the DEA task force, and one agency alone is fighting a losing battle. You have to coordinate with your county attorney's office, your Commonwealth attorney's office, your U.S. attorney's office, and all the agencies that you can coordinate with and get to buy into your idea and what you're trying to do, like in a task force concept, even with the county attorney, the Commonwealth attorney, and U.S. attorney's always been available to us to assist us.
Mr. Coyle, the relationship between other entities and working together.
Well, I think communication is everything. If you're a sheriff, county attorney, county judge, whatever, jailer, you have to communicate with the other entities of government. And what we've been able to do at the Madison County Sheriff's Office, we've been able to work with other law enforcement agencies in Madison County, with the County Attorney's Office, with development of the home incarceration again. We have different tools that we can use, and the County Attorney's Office is one of the biggest tools. They're the one that prosecutes the first defense of the case when it goes to district court and then it's bound over to circuit court or whatever. But the majority of our cases that, like I said, is somehow drug related. And you know, when you bring that in, you have domestics, you have robberies, you have burglaries, you have all these that come about. But Mr. Johnson mentioned the gang. You know, our biggest issue with any state, with any county, is the cartels and the drug and the gangs working together, and that's where most of our drugs are coming into Madison County, what we're trying to eliminate.
This question has to do with college students disrupting families and homes. As an EKU employee, I'm assuming they're talking about Berea college students and not our students. How will you enforce the laws and local ordinances related to college students disrupting families in their homes? We'll start with Mr. Coyle.
Well, if I understand the question correctly, of course, we have countywide jurisdiction, but we work well with all the other agencies here in Madison County. If our deputies are around EKU or whatever, and they see a crime being committed or a domestic or whatever the circumstance may be, they're going to act on it. But the majority of the time in Richmond or Berea, if it's Berea College, of course, you know, it's going to be Berea taking care of it or the city of Richmond. But we stay very active in all the enforcements of any type of crime that's committed, where it's EKU, Berea College, where it's in high school or whatever, but we try to coordinate work with other entities and other agencies to make that effort take place.
Mr. Johnson, curtailing college students disrupting other people in the community.
I can say that I would not agree with Mike on that issue. If I was sheriff, I would work well with EKU, Berea Police Department and RPD, offer any assistance that I could to them. And, you know, EKU's got pretty much their own police department, and I've had no objections to assisting them anytime they needed it. But my answer is pretty much in line with Mike's.
Here's a question from the audience having to deal with the basically politics that we see at the federal level. Transparency is key in all leadership positions and should be held to a high standard. Do you agree that your past as a citizen and as a peace officer should be made public when running for a public office?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Yes,
Ford?
sir, without a doubt.
All right, that was easy enough. Let's pause for a moment while I look for the next question. Mr. Coyle, your position is one that has a public face as sheriff, as do the people that work for you, out and about the community. What should be done, if anything, to make sure that officers are seen out in the county that provides reassurance to the community?
Would you care to repeat that again?
Sure. The sheriff's office has a public face. They're out, you know, out in cruisers, they're out and about, people see them. What should be done, if anything, to make sure that officers are seen out in the county more, I guess, would be the question, that provides reassurance to the community?
Well, I think a first impression is a lasting impression. And over my, since January 3rd of 2011, that I've been at the Madison County Sheriff's Office, we take a lot of pride. And, you know, we promote professionalism. And I'm blessed to have great employees, and they've bought into the concept that, you know, when they're out working, they need to be out where they can be seen doing their jobs. And we try, Madison County is a big county, bordered by 7 counties. You know, we got 460 something square miles, 1,100 something highway miles. I can assure you that during a tour of duty, that black cruiser, that deputy, is going to be seen. my chief deputy, Tony Terry, when we make schedules, we try to get the peak time where we have the most people out, and that's towards the weekends and those time periods.
Mr. Johnson, same question to you. Public-facing operation the sheriff's office is. What should be done, if anything, to make sure that officers are seen out in the county that provides reassurance to the community?
If I'm elected sheriff, that would be the primary place that I would have my deputies patrol, is out in the county, because Richmond has a police department, Berea has a police department, like I said, in EKU. So I would focus on the people out in the county that probably only has a few troopers patrolling their area.
School safety has been an issue not only here but in other across the country. What role does the sheriff's office have in helping to ensure and facilitate school safety?
Well, I think every law enforcement agency in the county should be involved in school safety. The sheriff's office, the police departments, and you know, one thing that I'd consider if I'm elected is actually having the officers go through the schools when they, or the deputies go through the schools when they don't have anything to do, or, you know, they're not on a call or whatever. And you could probably coordinate that with the police departments at different times. And to me, I would like to offset it and not pick a certain time for the officer to show up there, where really you couldn't pattern. If you was going to launch some kind of attack on a school, you wouldn't be able to actually pattern when that officer would be there, because you wouldn't know when they were coming.
Mr. Coyle, school safety.
Well, we play a big role in the Madison County school system as well as Berea community. Myself and my administrative staff, we meet once a month with the Madison County School superintendent and other workers there. We discuss the safety issues with the superintendents and principals. Madison County is very lucky. They've established and have in place school resource officers from Richmond Police Department that work Madison Central and the other middle schools here, and as well as Berea, where Berea Community works Southern, as well as Berea Community. So that leaves us, whenever we're asked to, we come in, we do a lot of traffic control, we do a lot of walkthroughs through the schools. They're very dedicated about making appearances. And believe it or not, we have deputies that have children in school. So they're going to make those appearances. That car is going to be seen, as you mentioned earlier. It's going to be seen out in the county. It's going to be seen around, and then also any special events, ball games or anything like that, you're going to see our appearance there.
This will be the last question before closing statements. Are there, you mentioned, Sheriff Coyle, that 80% of your work basically is in the drug problems associated with drug problems. Is that a fair? That's very safe. I would say 75 to 80% of the crimes that we deal with on a daily basis is somehow, somewhat, some way drug related. Okay. Are there best practices that you see taking place across the state or in other parts of the country that you would like to implement here? Well, I think there's some things that we need to take issue with and be concerned about. Like I said, the drug situation led from a drug problem to a drug epidemic, and that didn't happen overnight, but when it did, it was like a forest fire spreading. Now, I think what has come out of this is we see homeless people. You know, the old Himes Motel, we worked for months trying to get those folks out. You'd get them out and they'd come back. Once you do that, and then we have the needle exchange that's come in. You know, we have child abuse. We have animal abuse. A lot of these things are taking place. Now we have the mental ill people. It all seems like it's associated through the problem that's created here in our society. And there's probably no better time than it is right now in our society for the general public and law enforcement and first responders to come together, because this is a problem. We have scheduled tomorrow, like the jail did, where we're going to start taking shots to try to eliminate any type of issue with our deputies coming down with some problem. I'm sorry. Mr. Johnson, best practices that you see across the state or across the country dealing with drugs or any other issue that you would like to see implemented here in Madison County?
The number one thing, and it's like most of the folks that's been up here said, Once you get someone that's addicted to an opioid, they've got to want to get off of that before you can help them. I think Mr. Thomas said it earlier. You can do all you want to, you can't do any more, and you're not going to be able to help that person. But I stopped the other night, and they were having a Liberty House meeting down on Main Street at the courthouse, and you know, I respect those ladies for what they're trying to do to get off, but you know, I saw it with the crack cocaine addiction back in the early 90s when I was working street level drugs, and I've seen it go through crack, meth, pills, and now the heroin. So I would like to see some kind of, or some more assistance for these folks, something like the Liberty House or a program like that.
Mr. Coyle, you mentioned the intersection of the community and your office. Have you seen over the last, in your experience, and also I'll ask you, Mr. Johnson, that the community is more involved or less involved in these issues that are important to our community?
Well, I think a lot of people want to talk about it. When it gets right down to it, there's not a lot of action because, you know, jurors and our court system, it's like our jail. If our jail is overrun, the court system is overrun. But we all have to play a role, you know, where you're living as a residence in a subdivision. If you see activity that's suspicious, you know, call it in, let somebody know. Be proactive about things. But we have a lot of people that want to condemn law enforcement and then condemn the courts when they don't realize the magnitude that we are going through each and every day. I'm concerned over our deputies. I'm concerned over their safety and a lot of things that take place. And it seems like it's an open door policy on a lot of these people. It's the same faces, it's the same type crimes. So our public needs to get more involved and help.
Mr. Johnson, public more involved, less involved?
I think the public needs to be more involved. And there's always, you know, people want to do the right thing, but they really don't want to get involved, or they don't want to be mentioned in what's going on in the community, or, you know, working drug cases, you get an anonymous tip, and nobody really wanted to come forward and actually get involved in it. And I think it's probably pretty much like it always has been, but I really would like to see the community get more involved.
We're going to end with closing statements, and each candidate has 90 seconds. We'll start with Mr. Johnson.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, listening to us and the rest of the candidates that are here. I ask that you vote for me in November. What I can promise you is I will be out here every day. I will have an open door policy. I'm very approachable. As I started off saying, Madison County is my home. I've lived here all my life. I love the people here. I love the county. And I would really like to get elected and put my expertise from DEA, the cases I've worked in my career, and my experience from when I was Chief Deputy at the Sheriff's Office for a short period of time. I feel like that makes me a very qualified candidate for the office of Madison County Sheriff.
Thank you. Mr. Coyle.
Well, I also want to say thank you again for the Richmond Chamber of Commerce for hosting this. It's always excellent when you can come out and people can see the candidates and make a decision. I want to bring a few things up. In my career, in 28-year career in the state police, worked at Richmond PD, Berea PD, but in my state police career, I worked 14 years clandestinely. A lot of those years were undercover. I know what drugs are, but drugs is not the main thing. It is. It's a big topic, and it's a big thing that we do each and every day. But there's so many more things that the Madison County Sheriff Office has to do each and every day. And, you know, without everybody doing their job, with court security not doing their job, with the deputies not doing their job, we have to perform each and every day. We don't have, we got almost 92,000 people living in Madison County today. We have to be sharp. We have to be on our toes. It's a very dangerous business. We're in the business where we run to stuff where most people run away from. So we have to be there each and every day. But I want to say that I'm running on my performance, my past few years, my performance as Madison County Sheriff. I'm running on my experience as well as my character and my integrity, the vision that I have for the future of the Madison County Sheriff's Office, and the drive that I have to bring to work each and every day. And I want to thank everybody, and I hope I get the opportunity to be and remain your sheriff here in Madison County. Thank you.
Let's thank Mr. Coyle and Mr. Johnson for their attendance.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I would like to thank Mindy and the Chamber for hosting this event and to Eastern for providing the venue. My name is Allie Combs-Wicker, and I am your Circuit Court Clerk. I'm a lifelong resident of Madison County. I grew up on a farm just south of here. My husband Chris and I still live there today with our 2 children, Spencer and Kixon. I attended Eastern Kentucky University, and I studied correctional and juvenile justice. While attending Eastern, I also worked in the Circuit Court Clerk's office. I was hired by Linda Cates to be a deputy clerk. I have worked in the clerk's office and the court system for the past 15 years. And in November of 2017, I was appointed as your Madison County Circuit Court Clerk by Judge Logue. I love my job, I love what I do, and I love the people that I work with. It's because of my 15 years of experience and my eagerness to serve this community that I'm running for office. And as I close tonight, I would like to ask each of you in the audience and those of you who are viewing at home to consider the following. I've worked in the clerk's office for over 15 years. I have the experience that it takes to run this office. I have a wonderful working relationship with our judges and our attorneys and our sheriff's department and the jail. But most importantly, I represent 29 deputy clerks who work hard each day to make sure that our office runs as smoothly as possible. I know each of them personally, and I care for them deeply. I want to continue serving this community as your circuit court clerk, and the only way that I can do that is with your vote. So I ask each of you to please, on November the 6th, remember to vote to keep Allie Combs-Wicker, your circuit court clerk, the candidate with experience. Thank you all.
Thank you. Let's thank Ms. Wicker for being here. We would like to thank the Mindy and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting us. We'd also like to thank Eastern Kentucky University for hosting us. And 2 important things. One is no matter who you vote for, the people that are in the room that you saw up here today, please go up to them and thank them for their service and thank them for their willingness to be a public servant. And also, when it's time to vote on November 6th, that you get out and do so. Other than that, thank you all very much for coming and have a great evening.